All right, so let's go on page 58. We have found zeros, we have factored, we have taken polynomials apart. So what we're doing today is putting them back together. All right, so we're going to use these zeros to write the polynomial functions. So it says write an equation that could represent the function with the given zeros. So if I start with number 1, okay, so if these are my zeros, that means that these turn into factors. So I've got f of x equals, the factor would be x minus the zero, so of x minus 1, x minus 2. Right, that's kind of putting it back together. Then I have to multiply them. So not only do I need to be able to factor things and take them apart, I have to be able to multiply them back together correctly. So there are multiple ways to do this. You can do the box. We're big boys and girls now. We need to kind of learn to let the box go if that's your thing. Distribution, there's different names for it. I mean, if you have to literally draw a box to do it, we need to grow out of our box, okay? Foil, do you know what I mean by foil? Okay. Some people do, some people don't. It may be what you do, but you don't realize it. No matter what your way is, you're multiplying the same things together anyway. So what FOIL is, in case you've never actually heard that, it's an acronym for first, outside, inside, last. And so if you have that in your mind, then when you go through this, it's really not that big of a deal. So we are going to just take care of these first two. I'm not going to do all three of them together. So I'll leave this x minus 1 first, and we'll do these two together. So I'm going to leave x minus 1 by itself, multiply these two together. So I'm going to FOIL them. Multiply the first two together. X times x is x squared. The outside two together, negative 5 times x is negative 5x. Inside two together would be negative 2x. And the last two, negative 2 times negative 5 is positive 10. Okay. So if we were to set up a box, those are the 4 things that would be in your box anyway. Same thing, right? And then I'm going to terms. This gives me x minus 1 times minus 7x plus 10. So then I need to multiply these, which I can do with distribution, which is another way to look at the whole FOIL process as well. When you do this, you start with, I would start with whichever one has less terms, so like this only has 2 terms. But take this x, this first term, and multiply it by everything in here. So that's going to give me x times x squared is x cubed. X times negative 7x is negative 7x squared. And then x times 10 is 10x. Then I have to do the same thing with the other one. I have this negative 1. Multiply negative 1 times x squared is negative x squared. Negative 1 times negative 7x is positive 7x. Negative 1 times 10 is negative 10. Then I combine all my like terms. I got 1x cubed, so he's taken care of. Got negative 7x squared and negative x squared, so that's negative 8x squared. 10x and 7x is positive 17x, and then minus 10. That is my polynomial. We're making them. We're unfactoring them, right? We've been given them this in this form, and we've been taking them apart and factoring them. So we're taking the finished version and putting it back together, working the opposite way. Make sense? We all good? All right, so let's look at number 3. And I have, so this is, I'm going to make this f of x is equal to, so this negative 2, remember you always have x minus, but then minus the negative 2 is going to make that plus 2, right? That takes care of this one. Then this is another 2, so I'll go ahead and put it next to this one. So this will be x minus 2. And then I have this negative 4/3. That is not x plus 4/3, okay? Because if I did that, then it's going to, here's a couple of different ways to look at it. If I do x equals negative 4/3, I can add 4/3 to both sides and get x plus 4/3 equals 0. Right? That's how we're getting our factors back. But I don't want a fraction in here. I need a whole number. So another way to get there is to multiply both sides by 3, right, and get 3x equals negative 4, and add 4, so I get 3x plus 4 equals 0. So you need to think about where you would start to end up with that as one of your zeros. So this factor here is actually 3x plus 4, it is so easy to get those two numbers in the wrong place. So it might not be a bad idea for you to write it down so you can make sure that you've multiplied by the right one or whatever until you really get the hang of it. All right, so now when we go to multiply these, do I have any kind of special case going on here? What do these two things here give me? Difference of squares, right? So I don't need to do the whole FOIL thing. Difference of squares means that I square the first one, x squared, minus, and then I square the second one, it'd be 4. Because wouldn't x squared factor to those two things? And so then I have to multiply that by 3x plus 4. Everybody okay with that? So now I have two binomials, and then I can just FOIL this. So if I multiply the first two together, x times 3x. The outside two together is going to give me a positive 4x squared. The inside two together gives me negative 12x. And then the last two gives me negative 16. And then I need to combine. If I could combine, there's nothing to combine. It's already in descending order of my exponents. And so I'm good. I'm done. Okay. Any questions about that? Where did I get the negative 16? Negative 4 times 4. The last two terms to get multiplied together.
That makes sense.
Good.
Well, I just did it the long way.
What do you mean the long?
Like, over and then foiling the trinomial.
Oh, okay. Well, you mean foiling these two?
Yeah.
Okay, you can, but you have to learn to, before you just jump in and start doing math and get ahead of me, make sure that you are paying attention to the things that will simplify your life, because that will save you time once things get more and more complicated. Hello. That's right. All right, so then here, how many zeros do I have? 3, right? So I've got f of x is equal to, and then I have x plus the square root of 2 and x minus the square root of 2. And what would the last one be? X minus 1. Okay. We're doing it backwards. We're writing them. We're putting them back together. So here, what kind of little, do I have a special case here? How is this very similar to this, right? Is that also the difference of squares?
Yes.
Yes, it's got a square root in it, but that's okay. Sure, you can, if you FOIL them, things cancel out. That's why it works, and that's why we get what we get. But if these two things are identical, and the only difference is the sign in the middle, then that's a difference of squares. So I square the first term, which is x squared, minus, and then I square the second term. And what is the square root of 2 squared? 2. Any square root of anything squared is that thing. So the square root of 2 squared is just 2. And then I have that times x minus 1. Okay, does that make sense? Remember that little radical review we did? All right, so go ahead and FOIL that together. See if you can get that without me walking you through that. That is what we should end up with. All right. Everybody okay with that? Yes, we good? All right. So let's look at number 5. How many factors am I going to have in number 5? 4, because I got the plus or minus and the plus or minus, right? I have f of x equals, so I'll have an x squared of 3, x minus 2 squared of 3, x plus 1, and x minus 1. Do I have anything special going on here? I wouldn't right now. So do I have anything special going on right now? Yes, what do I have? Plus or minus 1. So I've got this is a difference of squares, and this is a difference of squares. Do you see that? That's important to recognize. So when I take these first two, and I'm going to get square the first one, that's x squared, And then I have 2 square root of 3 squared. What's it going to be? 2 square root of 3 squared is what we need to do. What's that going to give me? You square the 2, blush. Square root of 3 squared. What's 2 squared? 4. What's the square root of 3 squared? 3. Times 4 is 12. Okay? So you square both of them and multiply them together. Okay? So that is 12. And this would be minus because it was a difference of squares. And the 2 squared root of 3 squared is 12. All right, so then this is a difference of squares as well, right? So this is going to be x squared what? Minus 1. Okay, everybody good? Yep. All right, so then I need to FOIL these together. So go ahead and work on that, and then we'll see if we agree. Okay, we're good? Now I want you to look at the steps of what we did. Now, once you got the whole FOIL thing down, you might be able to skip this step because you can do the middle two like together in your head, and that's okay. But if you look at this backwards, if I have this and I want to factor it, if I have this, I split that middle term and then basically factor by grouping. So this is like that first step when you're factoring by grouping of the splitting the middle term. This is when it was split before it got put back together. And that's what's happening. It's just the reverse of what we've been doing. Okay, are we all good? Any questions? Awesome. All right, we're going to skip number 6. You don't want to do number 6. We're going to move on to number 7. Trust me. There's not. Well, there is, but you're not going to have to do it. So I just got to make sure I tell you which ones. I just realized earlier that I didn't write down which ones to mark off. So I think I'm going to hand it out. But all right. So examples with multiplicity. Same concept, except they're going to give you the multiplicities here. So we have. I'm going to start with my f of x here. So 3 is a 0, which means x minus 3 is a factor. The multiplicity is 2, so this is going to be squared. That's what the multiplicity of 2 means, right? Times x minus 5. Okay, so when I take that x minus 3 and I square it, is that x squared plus 9? No, it is not. So first thing you gotta know is no, you don't just distribute that squared. And let's just clarify something. Here, I distributed this square. Totally legal. Here, distributed this square. Totally illegal, right? The difference is this is multiplication and this is subtraction or addition. That's what makes this not. Okay, so hopefully we're past those mistakes, but I know that's something that happens like a lot. Okay, so you've got some options here. You can write, so x minus 3 squared is the same thing as x minus 3 times x minus 3. So I could write like that and I could FOIL it out. But it is a perfect square trinomial. And there is a pattern to this. We looked at it, we did factoring. When you're going the reverse and you're factoring, the pattern's not so easy to follow if a is not 1. But it makes squaring stuff like this way easy. So here's what you do. Okay, we take it's a perfect square. Here, I square the first one, so x squared. I multiply these two together, which would give me a negative 3x, and I double it, so I get minus 6x. And then I square the last one, which would give me a positive 9. So look what happens here. X times x is x squared, like if I was going to FOIL it. Outside is negative 3x, inside is negative 3x. That's where the negative 6x comes from. And 3 times 9. Okay, so if you can recognize that and you can do that, that's one worth knowing. I would say the factoring wise, not worth your time if you don't get it. This one I think is worth your time to try and learn and understand because it's going to happen so much. It's going to help you quickly get through things and not have to do it the long way every time. Okay, all right, and we'll look at it a couple more times. And I'm going to multiply that times x minus 5. So at this point, I'm going to do distribution. You can do it either way, but I would suggest you take the one that has the least number of terms in it if you have that option. There's only 2 here. So take this x and I'll multiply it by everything here, which is going to give me x cubed minus 6x squared plus 9x. That negative 5, pay attention to your signs, multiply it by everything in here. So minus 5x squared plus 30x minus 45. I almost did plus 9 there. Okay. Then we combine our like terms. So f of x is equal to, there's only one of the x, so negative 6x squared and negative 5x squared, which would be what? Negative 11x squared, positive 9x, positive 30x, plus 39x, and then minus 45. Okay. Everybody okay with all that? We good? All right. So let's look at number 8. How many total factors are there? 4. Like I have 3 zeros. 4 factors of multiplicity. So this f of x, now how does the 0 go in there? It's x. Good. This is just x. This 1 is going to give me x minus 1. And then is this going to be x minus 5 halves? No. What's it going to be? 2x. Would actually be minus 5 because it's positive. So 2x minus 5. And then that multiplicity is 2, so I'm going to square that. All right. All right, so I have 4. I'm going to take care of them 2 at a time, like these 2 together and then those 2 together. So I can go ahead and distribute this x, and it's going to give me x squared minus x. Then here, again, I can write this out as 2x minus 5 times 2x minus 5, but let's try and do this perfect square trinomial. If I take this 2x and I square it, what's that going to give me? 4x squared, because I got to square both of them. So this is going to give me 4x squared. Then I multiply these 2 together, which is going to give me a negative 10x, because that sign's important. Negative 10x, and then I do what with it? I double it. So it's going to give me minus 20x. And then I square the last term plus 25. Okay, everybody with me on that? That might be, again, worth kind of practicing and thinking about what that pattern actually is. We can write it. We'll write it down here. Well, let's finish this. I don't confuse you. We'll finish this and then I'll write it down. All right. Take this x squared and multiply by everything in here. So this is going to give me 4x to the 4th minus 20x cubed plus 25x squared. Then take this negative x and do the same thing. So minus 4x cubed plus 20x squared minus 25x. And then combine all these. It's going to give me 4x to the 4th. And then I have a negative 20x cubed, negative 4x cubed, so minus 24x cubed. 25x squared, 20x squared, plus 45x squared, and then minus 25x. So it really shouldn't be anything crazy difficult about this, but lots of places to make a mistake with your signs, with your exponents, like just lots of places for simple, silly little things. All right, so I want you kind of down under this line. I think you don't have a lot of room, but I think you have enough room. So they're going to be perfect square trinomials. All right, so you have a plus b squared. So if you have that, then that is a squared, and then you multiply a times b, but you double it, so that's plus 2ab plus, then you square the last one, b squared. But you could also have the minus, which is what we did up here. So you could have a minus b squared. So again, you square the first one, you multiply them together. This time they're negative, and you multiply by 2, and then plus b squared. So the only difference between these two is this middle sign here matches whatever's in the little binomial. Okay, square the first one, multiply them, and multiply it by 2, and then square the last one. So it's a pretty simple little pattern that you need to learn. That's one of those that you kind of need to know.
Those equations in biology called the Polynomials.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. And then just like it's good for you to recognize the difference of squares. So you can just multiply them together. Difference of squares, and this is going to help you multiply things together pretty easily. Okay, are we good? Any questions? All right, I'm going to just do one more, and then I'm going to let you work. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we're going to do that one anyway because for another reason. But we are going to do that one. So number 9. So I have this -1 multiplicity of 3. So f of x is equal to -1 means it's x plus 1. Multiplicity of 3 just means it's cubed. So multiplicity of 7 would mean there'd be a 7. You're not going to have to do one, but I'm just saying. And then this 5/4 means it's going to be what? 4x minus 5. Now, even though, so we have a perfect square trinomial, which means we could just kind of do it and not have to split it up or do anything. This is cubed. Is this the sum of cubes? No. Sum of cubes would look like this. And I'm not going to write out like the whole rule or anything, but sum of cubes would be x cubed plus 1. That's the sum of cubes, right? And that's different. So there's not a shortcut for this one. So what I would suggest that you do on this one is actually split this up. Not all the way, but split it up into the x plus 1 squared, because we do have something for that, right? And then I still have to take care of that other x, because it's going to be multiplied by 4x 5. I just split it off so I'd have that squared there that I could use. All right, so then x squared plus 1. Actually, I'm going to do it this way so we have plenty of, somebody else might write bigger. I'll just keep going this way. This x plus 1 squared, that's a perfect square trinomial, right? So that's going to give me x squared, and then 1 times x is x, times 2 is plus 2x. 1 squared is 1, okay? That's where that came from. Then this I'm going to FOIL, but I'm going to skip a step in here. I'm going to multiply the first two. X times 4x is 4x squared. Then the outside 2 is going to give me a negative 5x. Inside 2 gives me a positive 4x. So that negative 5x and positive 4x gives me just a negative x. And then 1 times negative 5 is negative 5. If you feel like maybe it's not a good idea for you to skip that middle step, it's okay. I'm not saying you have to skip steps. I'm just saying once you get the hang of it, you may not need to write them all down, but you know yourself and whether or not you need to be skipping stuff. All right, so then I'm going to multiply these two together. It's still just distribution. Like instead of the binomial times the trinomial, it's 2 trinomials. It's going to be lots of times at first, but it's no big deal. So I'm going to start with this x squared. I'm going to take this x squared, and I'm going to multiply it by every term in here. So that'll give me 4x to the 4th minus x. Then I take this 2x, and I multiply it by every term in here. So this is going to give me plus 8x cubed minus 2x squared minus 10x. Then I take this 1, and I multiply by everything here. So that's plus 4x squared minus x minus 5. Now, I could have done it the other way. I could have said 4x squared and distributed in here, and then this, it doesn't matter either way. Just make sure that you keep up with it. Now, when you have a bazillion terms like this, you need to have some way of making sure you don't leave anything off. So you look for all of, kind of been underlining them anyway, but there's only one x to the 4th term, right? So I got that one. That's 4x to the 4th. Then I have positive 8x cubed, so that's positive 7x cubed, and that's all of the x cubes I have, so plus 7x cubed. Then I have negative 5x squared and negative 2x squared. That's negative 7x squared and a positive 4x squared, so that'd be minus 3x squared. Then negative 10x and negative x is negative 11x, and then minus 5. So it's kind of long, but it's doable. You can handle it. Okay? Everybody okay on that? Any questions at all? All right. So go ahead and glue that in or tape it in. Okay, on the front of the homework, the only one you're going to do is number 7. Only one, because it's not even what we did today. It's finding all the zeros, so you're going to have to factor, find this, like read the directions there, okay, because it's already put together. You only have to, that's the only one on the front you have to do. On the back, no, you're going to do 11, 12, 13, 15. So you only have 5 problems total. If you don't turn this in, I am not going to be happy with you, okay? And you got lots of time to work today, so you better get some of it done now. So 5 problems total, number 7 on the front, and 11, 12, 13, and 15 on the back, okay? That makes sense? We good? Awesome.